Andor was probably one of my favorite TV shows that have come out in the last few years. I don't know if you guys have watched it. From Star Wars, kind of the prequel to the prequel that was Rogue One, which out of the entire kind of Star Wars, this newer Star Wars kind of franchise, kind of whatever, this newer wave of Star Wars films and TV shows and properties that have been put out by Disney, Rogue One is easily probably my favorite thing that they have put out since they bought Lucasfilms. I think the trilogy that they put out was absolutely trash. I think, Grogu and that whole series had its moments, but in general, I think that they've mishandled the mystique and the love of, and then just the franchise that is Star Wars in general. But Rogue One was an absolute banger from front to back. It was just a banger, and it's like easily one of my favorite films to have come out from it, and honestly one of my favorite films in general. Like, I just think that everything about that hit on such a satisfying level that I was very glad to hear them kind of decide that we're going to revisit that. Not only that, but with the whole series, a prequel series, and we're going to bring out people that that you loved from that film. And spoiler alert, obviously, if you have not seen Rogue One, that's on you. It's been out for a while. Everybody dies at the end of that movie, so like there was no possibility of getting a sequel. But going back to a prequel to that and like kind of learning more about these characters before we got to see them in the film was such a just like a almost no-brainer, but like a genius move in general. And like to bring that energy and feel to a like dramatic, dark HBO level series was just super satisfying. I think Andor is one of the greatest properties to have come out from the entire kind of Star Wars world, Disney Star Wars kind of world, even Star Wars world. I think it's that good. I think it's that good of a series. I think it stands up even outside of Star Wars if it wasn't a Star Wars kind of property. But the fact that they were able to obviously tie into the world in such a meaningful way of a franchise that I love, that a lot of people love, and just whatever, I just think it's a banger from front to back. I think what they were able to come up with was phenomenal. And what we're going to watch before I have rudely interrupted by my internet is Diego Luna and Andor himself. Is that name? Was that name? Yeah. Breaking down one of the most, talked about kind of now iconic scenes from season 2, the Ghorman massacre. So if you have not watched Andor and you plan to, you can skip this, but I definitely want to watch this as he breaks it down. It was definitely a standout moment from the series in season 2 in particular.
When we're in pre-production, it feels like a gigantic machine. When you're shooting, it feels that you have just enough, because we are hoping to do these very ambitious shots. Hello everyone, hola, ¿cómo están? I'm Diego Luna. I play Cassian Andor in the show Andor.
I'm Tony Gilroy. I am the creator and executive producer of Andor on Disney+.
And this is Variety making a scene.
Hey, I hope things work out for you.
Rebellions are built on hope.
We build things on this show. We built Ferrix in the first season. Now we were going to build something big.
Rebellions are built on hope. I'm pretty sure that was a... Yeah, that was a callback. That was an Easter egg to Rogue One in general, I believe. Which character said that? Jen Erso. Yes, she said that specifically in the meeting in terms of like trying to get them to go after the plans for the Death Star. Spoiler alert once again, but yeah, that was a dope little kind of nod and Easter egg, so to say, for fans of the film Rogue One.
Bigger. We knew we were going to be investing very heavily in Ghorman. To build a world, a planet, a city like that at that scale, you have to really use it. We knew that it would be a centerpiece of the show. It's a centerpiece in canon. In the 5 years that I get to curate, it's a critical moment in the history of the rebellion, and yet it's very undescribed. There was a mandate and a demand to do it, but there was no information about what it was, which is kind of the best thing for us.
everything was happening at the same time. When we were shooting with all the cameras, and there was days that was big, huge, you know, all the extras were there, the stunts, all the cues were triggered at the same time for you to react to them. But also there was days where it was you by yourself pretending you're in the middle of everything.
The most challenging part for me was to try to calibrate the timing of everything and to try to calibrate where everybody is. When you do these kinds of scenes where you have lots of characters that you're trying to follow quite a few stories there. And this is almost real time what's happening. The whole episode is primarily just this thing. Nothing can stop. Just tracking Diego's path from the hotel in time is a science project. And every single person has to get their own little science project.
There was a lot of talks and a walkthrough to understand what happened, when and where. The set works fantastically. So we went to the places to see the perspective of what I can see and what I can't, because the logic of the space made everything clear for us.
I mean, the set designs, the work that they went into the just bringing the feel of like a lived-in world to this series was top fucking notch, and like really reminded me of the early days of Star Wars, and like that really like practical feel of everything, the real feel of everything that like really brought you into the universe that obviously George Lucas built. Like, I feel like they captured that in this series to like a degree that we have not seen from Star Wars in a while. And like, they truly show like, you know, craftsmanship, passion for it. Like, not just doing this for the cash grab, but doing this because you think that there's a great story to tell. And like, you think that it's going to actually mean something to people. And like, you can feel it. You can feel it, especially in this scene in general. Like, this is like, okay, like they respect the viewer. They trust in you. They think they don't baby you. They don't coddle you with this. They like present all these very intricate details that they just, you know, allow the viewer to pick up on and feel, and subtleties in itself, because this is adult Star Wars. This was adult Star Wars.
We knew that the massacre would be taking place in a town square. We also knew that we didn't want to do anything that looked or felt like anything that we had done before. We also wanted a prosperous planet. We wanted a place that was well off, politically connected, not an easy place for the Empire to take down. It's not even just the architecture and the construction, it's designing a place for the story and for what the directors are going to be able to make the most of. Without really detailed instruction or mandate, Lucal gives us this absolutely astonishing little stadium to play in. He fits it into the aesthetic of what we've already built, and the cafe, and then the brocante shops that are around it, and the hotel.
One of my favorite parts of the pre-production process is to go with Michael Wilkinson and go through all the designs for the whole season, you know. It's fascinating to see all of the work and so all of the questions asked before they even go to start like building the clothes. And same happens with the spaces and stages, and same happens with all the looks for makeup and hair.
I can't even imagine like how big their productions are, like just the rooms, the amount of people that they need to build something like this, because a lot of this is done practically. And like, if I was a set designer, if I was something in design that, especially in film, like my dream would definitely be on like a Star Wars property, at least one that does practical stuff, because the amount of creativity and just effort and just work and collaboration that is required to pull this off, and at this degree that's gonna, like, you know, that a lot of eyes are gonna be on, would be so fucking satisfying to see the end product and just see all of your visions and thoughts and ideas come to life. Like that would be extremely satisfying in film. And like, I've always been impressed with the productions of these, you know, stories in Star Wars, and like this was right up there with any of them in terms of the love and detail that they put into this.
Good handle on ghorman. The prep is 3.5, 4 months, and does not include the prep that Luke and I did before we even started the room. So, I mean, this is a year-long project.
Weeks, not days, to shoot an episode. Just the fight with Cyril was 2.5 days.
That's crazy.
We worked on that fight for, I would say, months. There was many different choreographies we did before we all agreed on one, you know, that Tony was really happy about, and that explained the whole story that the fight has to tell. And then the shooting of that was painful, literally. All my body ached. That's when I went like, I'm so glad we're shooting this season now that I can still move, because in a few years I won't be able to do this. I felt old. But it was very cool at the same time, because we owned every move, every hit. There's art on hitting, but also on receiving. We had these amazing team of stunts. There's a lot of learning for the director, for the DOP, obviously for us as actors, you know, and that all comes from the team of stunts.
And you wouldn't even like, hold on, let's watch the clip.
The fight between...
Like, you wouldn't even think, like, watching that scene, watching that fight, which obviously was very impactful, like, you wouldn't even imagine, like, something like that would take 2.5 days of shooting to capture, because it wasn't like the most intricate stunt in terms of like stunt work that you've ever seen on film. Like, it's not like they're, you know, fighting Darth Maul out there doing flips and all this other shit. Like, it's a pretty knockout, drag out fight that you would think would be pretty easy to kind of capture. But the fact that they put that much time and attention to something like this, because it was such a pivotal moment in terms of storytelling, especially storytelling like this. I'm not going to spoil especially this, but like, this was such a satisfying, not even satisfying. This was just such a culmination of the buildup of things that we've been doing in this show, and it was such a moment that we knew was coming, but we didn't know how it was coming or know when it was coming. So it was just, in terms of storytelling, this was just as important as anything else that happened in this episode. And like, the fact that they took 2.5 days to perfect that and to bring this to film just showed how much they actually fucking cared about what they were making, and it just showed in the end product of why this is probably the best Star Wars series that they've made yet. And I will stand by that.
Diego and Kyle is something we've done on every movie. It's a fight scene. That's old school. I mean, we've all been through that many, many times before. I think it's really marvelously done. Mark Maley did a really great job on it. It's amazing, and it's tasteful, and it tells the story. But what happens outside on the square, what Mark Maley does out there with his people, the stuff with the KX units, to be honest with you, that's a far more unusual and difficult thing to do. Tremendous amount of this is in camera. We do set extensions, and obviously the droids are animated and the blaster tracers are added in afterwards. But by and large, this is happening in camera. It's really as practical as you can possibly imagine, and then enhanced. We can't have the 2,000 people that we want to have out there. So we have to tile them. We have to cheat. We have to cheat all the way through. Maybe we can have 300, 400 people.
Obviously, there is CGI and there is visual effects, but everything you are interacting with is actually there. It's quite a thing, you know, the amount of work that Luke Hall puts behind the sets. It has its own cinematic approach, because actually directors can feel the space and understand what happens when you put the camera here versus there, because there's objects, there's depth. And that for us is beautiful as actors, you know, because you understand how the logic of the space asks you to play the scene. Yes, obviously, if there's a huge building, we build the first floors of the building, and then the rest gets painted later. The building of those 2 floors make the big difference, you know, because you are there, you walk through it, you come from inside to outside. For example, the hotel has this entrance, right? So you go from the plaza, and then you go through the doors, you come in the lobby, you have the reception, you have the bar on the left, and you go through some stairs to the rooms on the back. All of that exists, and everything is moving when you're acting. So when we were playing that interaction in the reception, you have the whole hotel moving behind you, you know, and it's there, and all the creatures and characters are there. The extras, they're all characters, and wardrobe and makeup and hair take the same amount of time on extras than any other role or speaking part of the show. So it's fabulous, you know, as an actor. You don't get that often in this business, you know, where you are actually interacting with this level of production. And all of that process is wonderful, because when you are on set, you know what you're doing, and most importantly, you know why. When there's a chase, that moment where the KX unit is chasing and everyone is running away, and it's just like throwing people, getting people out of the way. They have cables and lines, and they are actually flying, you know, while you're running. And it's happening, you know, it's happening. Then, obviously, a lot of VFX work comes in. Those guys are are really good. Obviously, they're cleaning up a lot of things that have to be there for safety. There's also a lot of design in the process of visual effects.
Movie magic. You know, it's a show, movie magic. And people want to replace that with AI. Like, come on. The love, the passion, the creativity that goes into creating something like this. And you can feel it. You can feel it. Watching this scene, you can feel it. I was fucking locked in when this shit was going on with everything that was happening because it was just that impactful. Not only just from a storytelling aspect, but from a visual aspect. Like this is why the medium still matters, why doing things practically still matters, why things just hit differently when there's some sort of soul behind it. Not everything needs to be soulless AI. You still need these things. These things are still important. There's still value to these things outside of money. You just know it when you see it, that you're watching something special. And I truly hope that like they continue down this road in terms of, Star Wars and just anything that they kind of plan to do in this very much beloved franchise, because this right here, Andor slapped and was easily one of the best things I've watched in the last couple of years.
The beauty of Andor is that you can get so deep that you might forget you're in this galaxy far, far away. You are just in a place that actually exists. That's the strength of that episode, that it's a massacre that feels like personal. It's happening. You're looking at it and you go like, shit, those are people suffering. Those are people being hurt. And all that destruction is actually happening. And the work of, VFX, stunts, obviously production design, makeup, hair. Yeah, it's incredible.
Can't stress enough, particularly for your audience. I mean, the role that ADs play when it comes to crowds, when it comes to background, I don't think ever gets anywhere near the attention that it needs to get. Bad background will ruin a great scene, and great background will elevate something. To get 300-400 people to show up in costume for many, many weeks in a row, to have the people show back up again because they're happy to go back to work, and get there and all feel like they're doing something important, and they are, and to be inspired every day. Sean Guest and the AD's department, this is a tour de force.
It's a work of so many people. So many pieces have to be in place that people don't know, but it's fascinating, you know? That's the beauty of these jobs. It's teamwork at its best.
Like hearing people talk about the things that they truly and deeply love and have a passion for, that you can clearly see it's like their life's work, is one of my favorite things. Just hearing them talking about it, I can hear them talk about that, discuss this for hours, because it just oozes. The passion just oozes. It's invigorating. It's inspiring. It's so dope to see that people still love something like this as much as they do, and why I hate streamers, why I hate streaming platforms, why I hate the devaluation of the craft that is happening in not only film, but in music and a lot of other creative endeavors. Because when it truly is magic, and when things come together and things just hit, and like that level of passion and inspiration meets with the design and like the money and like in the studio, and like when all those things come together to create these absolutely magic moments, they become iconic. They become staples of who we are as people, and they become part of our lives, and they become core memories. And like Star Wars is such an important franchise, and then what I feel like Disney has done for the large part has largely kind of like fumbled and mismanaged and mishandled it, and lost what was the true magic of what was Star Wars. But I think with Andor, they really recaptured that to a large degree. I think what they were able to do with this was phenomenal. I think they showed a different side of the franchise. They showed a grounded a grounded, real, authentic look and feel of what the universe was, and what that true level of oppression felt like in there. Whereas in other films, like You knew the Empire's bad. You knew how oppressive it could be, but you didn't know how bad it truly was for people on the ground that made up this galaxy and why people were fighting so hard for it. And like this showed right there, like front center, why everything that was happening in the franchise mattered so much, why and how evil the actual Empire was. And it was just so prescient and timely in terms of what is actually going on in our world, especially in politics and socially, and like a lot of the unrest and people being unhappy and just the feeling that's going on. Is just, it could not have hit at a better time. And then when you tie it into like its clear connections and references to an iconic, obviously, property or like iconic story like Les Miserables, and it's just like it's very evident of what they were trying to do, and just like what they were able to bring to this franchise and just bring to film and TV in general is phenomenal. And this would be a banger even if it wasn't attached to Star Wars, but the fact that it was also attached to Star Wars, now we're able to get this very adult, grounded, real story where story came first was perfection. Like this is adult Star Wars at its finest, and I hope Disney takes notes and continues on this road. Yes, creating something special and iconic and hard hitting like this is a lot of work. It takes a lot of effort, but when it hits, and the payoff was just spectacular, and like easily one of the best series that I've seen in some years, and like easily the best Star Wars series that I've probably ever seen. And cannot get enough of hearing people talk about the things and that they truly deeply love and have a passion for. It's what is missing, unfortunately, a lot in today's day and age from people.